let's go to our first speaker, who we are very privileged to have with us, my colleague at Roots Action, India Walton. India is a native of Buffalo, New York. In 2021, she rocked the political establishment in her hometown by challenging and defeating a four-term incumbent in the Democratic primary for mayor of Buffalo. And since her loss to an unprecedented write-in campaign in the general election, she has continued to advocate for increased civic participation and policies that prioritize the poor and working class as senior strategist with Roots Action. India Walton, welcome.
Thank you so much, David. And good evening, everyone. I am honored to be here and open up the stage for the conversation that we're going to have this evening. I'm honored to do it, but I'm also a little bit, I'm not even a little bit, I'm very disheartened to witness what's happening across the country with ICE and immigration and mass deportations and this all out assault on our neighbors and community members and hardworking immigrants, migrants, and refugees who really make my community home. So, for some context, if you don't know where Buffalo is, we call it the armpit of New York State. It is on the western end, so almost 600 miles from New York City, but it's very close to the Canadian border. And that means that Customs and Border Patrol is able to patrol within 100 miles of any international border. So there's pretty much been Customs and Border Patrol in Buffalo for as long as I can remember. However, recently with the mandate, we are seeing lots of unmarked, unidentified, scary people hop out and abduct people who are in the country legally. These are folks who have either legal status or the agents, and we'll put agents in air quotes because they're not identifying themselves. They do not have badges. They do not have warrants. They are not giving folks due process. They're being abducted off of job sites and at court hearings. They're unable to retrieve documentation if they have it from their home. They're being sent to detention centers, and their families are not being notified as to their whereabouts. And it is creating dangerous situations, not only for the targets of these actions, but also for people in the surrounding neighborhoods. A recent example that happened in Buffalo is a roofing crew was on a job in a residential neighborhood that's near a school, and armed ICE agents showed up with weapons drawn in the middle of the day in a residential neighborhood near a school where guns would otherwise not be permitted to remove people from an active roofing site. So the narrative that they're going after so-called criminals is a dog whistle. It's false. It's unequivocally false. But one thing that we've been doing in Buffalo is when there are specific cases that we know of, we're accompanying folks to court hearings. There's been a specific neighborhood where we knew that ICE was targeting that has a high population of migrants and immigrants and asylum seekers, and community members have been patrolling, sharing information about who was in the neighborhood, what we noticed, and what we have come to realize is that when people know their rights, when a lot of these agents know they're being surveilled and they're breaking the law, that they do stand down. Now, let me talk a little bit about what we are not doing. We're not interfering. We are recording from a safe distance. We are documenting what we see, but we are not putting our bodies in between the so-called agents and anyone that they are trying to um, bother. And the reason for that is not only for our personal safety, um, but also because we don't want to complicate matters for victims of these abductions, right? We don't want them to be able to now say that there is resistance or some criminal charge they're going to add on because we're obstructing a governmental process. Um, and the last thing that I'll share is I think that the most important part of forming a community response to ICE and deportations is having a relationship beforehand. I think that things came together rather quickly for us because we are a community that is constantly organizing and have been organizing and supporting our organizations. So when it's time for a rapid response or to identify folks to go watch over someone who is vulnerable, there's already a bench of people who are trained, who have relationships with one another, and who have built enough trust to know that everyone is on the same page and doing the right thing. And I've been talking for 7.5 minutes. So I'll leave it there and let's go on to the next person.